Right, hello. I'm hoping this video is going to be a decent quality. I've just had a tech nightmare, which is not unusual for me. Most interactions with tech is a nightmare. Really, I just wanted to demonstrate how I've used art in the past to cope with life. I was talking to a friend the other day about art and how it's played a role in my life. And this book, The Magic Paintbrush, was such a massive part of that. It was like I could draw myself into a life that I wanted, or I could draw myself out of a life that I didn't want. And it gave me that freedom, but it also appeared that I was doing something. So I wasn't idly sitting around doing nothing. And that's something I'm having to learn how to be with, is that the idea of idly sitting around doing nothing. For some time now, I've been on a bit of a hiatus whereby I'm just kind of sitting with myself, waiting for inspiration, for motivation, because I've just felt so flat. And it was interesting, I've been listening to a few of Tracy Emin's interviews, because she talks about having cancer, and her whole exhibition is about life before cancer and life after. And she has this real kind of renewed vigor and this renewed zest, and I just don't have that. And I was watching Alex Partridge, not Alan Partridge, the guy who talks a lot about ADHD. And he said that it doesn't matter what he achieves, he doesn't feel self-congratulatory. And I feel exactly the same. Like, it kind of baffles me when people talk about cancer as being a big thing. I'm not kind of underplaying it, but in my world, I didn't make it a big thing. Like, it was everything, because I was going through it and I was healing, and healing was everything, but the cancer part wasn't everything. I didn't associate myself with it, but equally I didn't dissociate from it. It's such a fine line, and I've walked that line for the last 11 years now. And art has played a massive part of that, in both helping me to process what's happened and to revisit belief systems, trauma, and help process that. But it's not in your face processing. It's quite, although it's deliberate, it's really, really gentle. And so I hold art in high esteem when it comes to healing, my healing in particular. There's some writing that I did here, and I found this a couple of months ago, and I thought I'd put it there because it's really important. It says, "Please, please God, make tomorrow the best day of my life. I will be so grateful to be well. I do desperately want to live my life, blah, 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 blah." And that was the day before my scan results or something like that, or going to see some kind of cancer doctor. And it wasn't all right. It was kind of the worst news that I could have had, but I didn't care. Like, looking back, it changed so much for me, for the better, that I'm wholly grateful for that experience. Terrifying at the time, at times, but it really kind of made me see what was important in my life and shed what wasn't. And so there's like a hope in that piece of writing. But from looking back at it now, it's like, if that hadn't have all come back positive, like positive as in having had cancer, then I wouldn't be the person that I am now, and I don't want to change that. So there is so much gratitude, and I did a lot of writing like that, just big writing using Sharpies on pieces of A2 paper, just to get the shit out of my head and onto paper. And then I just put it under my bed. Sometimes I'd write over the writing because I didn't want someone to go into it and to read it, to understand what was going on in my head, you know, my thoughts, fears. They were private, and I wanted to keep them that way. And so I consider them to be art, because the intention was for them to be art. They were a written expression of what was going on inside me. But I was doing that through expressive writing and colour. I don't want to spend this whole video just talking. I could, because I can talk for hours. But I wanted to demonstrate that making art is an instinctual process. It's not something that we have to concentrate on. It's something that we've all done. As soon as we could pick up a pen, a pencil, we were making marks. We've done it for eternity. And there's something really soul satisfying in doing it. But like everything, we've sterilized that. We've made it into something that it shouldn't be. Something that we expect of ourselves. The fact that it doesn't look like a certain object. I don't work like that. I used to, and I got a lot of joy out of drawing things that were meant to be things, but that's not now what soothes my soul. What soothes my soul is this. It's that sense of making a mark, the feeling of using the instrument, like the instrument, in this case, the piece of graphite, is smooth. You could see me, I've just realized that I was talking and I was using it as like a self-soother. This soothes my nervous system. Making marks that I don't care about soothes my nervous system. Making marks just for the sake of making my marks soothes my nervous system. Making marks that will be on the planet when I'm long gone soothes my nervous system. There's something so healing in that. I've largely lived my life in fight or flight. I've had way more than the average person's amount of trauma. And this has been a massive lifeline for me. And I went and studied it at university, and I don't wish I hadn't, because I'm glad that I did. I learned a lot about myself through the process of doing a fine art degree. But I learned also how that I had to justify everything. And I'm just turning the fan on. And so it took me a long time to unlearn that and to just make marks for the sake of it without having to justify anything. And that's what I want to push, is an invitation to make marks for the sake of making marks, because art is so healing for everybody. That when we just pick up a pen or a pencil and start making marks in a way that brings us peace, that's enough justification. You don't need any more than that. But we've sanitized art, we've sterilized it, we've made it into something with expectation. And we lose the ability to trust our own instinctual mark making at a pretty young age. And so I want to invite people to let that child kind of run riot now, to just have their moment in the spotlight and play. This, making squares or whatever I'm really doing, has no form in and of itself, but it really doesn't matter. Each stroke of the graphite on the paper creates a ripple through my body that tells me I'm safe, that tells me it's okay, that I'm okay, and that this is what I need to be doing right now. Because bringing our nervous system back online and allowing our bodies to feel safe brings an immense amount of healing. Because the word healing brings with it the idea of having to fix something when we think it's broken. And especially when you're dealing with serious illness, chronic pain, there's a pressure to heal. And so this takes the directness of that pressure away and makes healing something that we just do. But actually it's an enjoyable part of what we do. I've drawn squares and I've done written drawings. So when I say a written drawing, I mean something that I've just written over writing in order to keep that anonymity. And I've sat there for about 45 minutes and you can't really see the paper underneath all of the writing, all of the layers of writing. And it's like, oh my God, that was in my head. Like that was clogging up my brain. So it's really nice to get that busyness out so that I can see it and I can respect the capacity that I actually have inside my head. It's like a depiction of the inside of my brain and the repetition of thought. Most of us are guilty of that. Probably very few aren't. You know, we can't help it. It's a human condition, is to overthink everything. And so this, for me, gives me a chance to be coherent, heart coherent, not head coherent. My heart comes back online and my head is busy in its own way. It's got something to do and I've got something that's keeping it busy. I am making visual marks that my brain is like quite excited by, and it's looking for pattern, it's looking for repetition and contrast, and it's trying to correct them. It's like it's almost automatic for it to do that, and it keeps it busy whilst it at the same time it's meditative, because at the same time it's bringing me such a lot of joy. And like I say, each mark that I'm making has a physical feedback system that makes me feel safe, that makes me feel alive, that makes me feel tuned in to what I need to be doing right now. And ultimately, all I've done is do one repetitive mark over and over and over again to build up a page full of marks. And each mark has regulated my nervous system. And it's like I really want to stop, but I can't, because my brain is really engaged with what I'm doing, because it can see the gaps, it can see the inconsistencies, and it wants to kind of correct them. But there's a part of me correcting that, going, do you know what? It really doesn't matter. And so I have to lose any perfectionism that I might have, because none of this is perfection. It's just marks. It's just random, yet decisively patterned. Like, it doesn't look random. It looks like there is a formula there, and there kind of is, but there isn't at the same time. And that's where the heart and the brain engage themselves, or engage each other even. I don't know. I feel a bit like I'm rambling now, because I'm quite caught up in doing this. And so there's like a sweet spot, and then there becomes like an obsessive spot where I have to go, do you know what? That's it, job done. So one other thing before I leave. I love this pencil. Like, you couldn't use mechanical pencils for a long time because I was worried about breaking the leads. Now I realise it's all right to break the leads. It really doesn't matter. But there's something about this pencil and just doing this, just shading, that brings me so much peace. It's that feedback loop. It's soothing my nervous system, which I've just really excited, by the way, and soothed at the same time, by making faster marks. So I'm just going to slow myself down by just doing this. All I'm doing is shading. That's it. I love art. I love the freedom that comes from it. And I want other people to experience that freedom without judgment of themselves, because such a lot of healing comes from this. This is what we need. We need more self-acceptance, more love, more sitting idly around playing. And I invite you to do the same. Sending you lots of love.